Hey, Foot Clan. Today's episode is brought to you by FantasyChamps.com, the best, the only place to get your trophies, your rings, your championship belts, or my personal favorite, the fantasy football jerseys with your team name, your name on it. It's great. Go to FantasyChamps.com, and you can save 10% off with the promo code BALLERS.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. It's Tuesday, February 13th.
Oh!
Sorry.
She's trying to go Huey Lewis on me.
Calendars are difficult.
Trying to go back in time.
I was busy thinking about Jason, and he was talking about that fantasy football jersey, and that made me think about how he and Brooks are in the middle of a rebranding in one of our leagues. Like, you're changing your team name.
In the League of Record,
That's like one of the rules I just don't break.
Brooks is my co-owner, and we are rebranding. And
do you want to make an announcement?
No, I do want to.
Giamatti and friends.
We just have not officially landed on our rebrand.
Snack counts. The snack counts.
I'm waiting.
Keep them coming. Hey, if you're out there,
waiting with
at
bated
Jason
breath
FFL,
right now, Jason.
Give me that team name.
Well, something can, hopefully you find something that can get you into the playoffs again.
Oh,
dude, there's very little chance I don't win the championship next year.
Oh, was that your counterpoint? There's very low chance that I'm not the champion, so you just watch yourself.
Yeah, I call it how I sees it, and it's a fact.
Okay, I can't really argue with that hypothetical. Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We are excited to have you with us. Please subscribe, review the show, support us over there on Apple Podcasts or wherever you might be listening. We're happy you joined us. We've got a great show. Free agent preview today. We're going to walk through teams with the greatest free agent needs. We're going to walk through the different prominent free agents available on the market and get you a little bit aware of the ins and outs of free agency, the timeline.
Get your hopes up that your team might land that player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before, they sign somewhere else.
Well, we're right on the precipice of the most loving day of the year. I mean, Valentines Day is tomorrow, gentlemen. And so, without further ado, the quick question of the day is, who's your fantasy Valentine?
Oh, my.
For 2018.
Jason's giggling. What are those noises?
Valentine's Day just makes me giggle.
I mean, so are you inferring that yourself or your wife makes those noises?
Yes. Yes, I am.
You just walk around the house.
All right, Mike, who's your fantasy Valentine?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because my fantasy Valentine this year, I'm getting pretty hot and bothered. Verklempt. Getting the face sweats.
The vapors.
Nick Foles.
I go. Oh. Yes.
No,
it's not Nick Foles. It's because all the chatter, the belle of the ball is Alvin Kamara, Super Kamario himself.
Who I almost made my fantasy Valentine.
Oh, and that's exactly why I love Mark Ingram. He is going to be disrespected yet again in drafts for what we're going on about 14 straight seasons of fantasy football players slapping him in the face.
That's no way to love on Mark Ingram.
And so I'm offering him a big hug, saying, Mark Ingram, I love you. I love your rushing touchdowns. I love your market share of the New Orleans Saints backfield. And I love that I'm going to get you probably 2 rounds later.
He's only been a top 10 running back for the last 3 consecutive seasons. So I'm sure, I honestly almost made him my fantasy MVP. There was only one other guy or my fantasy Valentine that I thought about doing, and it was who Andy picked.
Oh!
Devontae Adams. I have scorned your love.
Wow,
I have spurned your love in the past.
From worst to lover.
I feel like the only way to make it up to Devontae is to make him my Valentine. Because he's going to be Aaron Rodgers' Valentine all year long. No one in the NFL over the last 2 seasons has more red zone touchdowns than Devontae Adams. And The torch has been passed. I like Devontae more than I like Jordy Nelson next year. And he deserves his due.
He does.
And
well, he kind of got it in the form of
touchdowns,
of currency,
money, whatever it might be. Yeah, touchdowns, money, and then Aaron Rodgers coming back with a chip on his shoulder. So Devontae Adams,
chip in his collarbone. Am I right?
Hey,
well, my fantasy Valentine for this coming 2018 is a wide receiver. He's young. He's 23. Also, he was the number 4 wide receiver last year, and I'm drafting him in the 4th round. Give me that freak. Give me Tyreek Hill. I know you lost your quarterback. I ain't scared. I think you made Alex Smith. Alex Smith did not make Tyreek the freak. I'll take you on a date, Tyreek.
I love Tyreek Hill. I really do. I think he's gonna be great this year.
And in sync.
All right. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Mark Ingram. I like it. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. I want to remember something very important. We need to give a shout out on the show today.
Don't forget to remember.
Yeah, we just had the Remember episode. My mind is sharp as a tack. Isabel Green.
Oh!
We want to give a shout-out to longtime Foot Clan member, supporter, donator to our wall of Foot Clan items, Isabel Green. She's going to be having triplets. Is that today?
Right now. She's not listening because, yes.
What? She's not listening?
She's adding 3.
In labor?
Well, I'm sure that the hospital will probably put our podcast on in the
yeah, you got to get your home pod in there.
But, yeah, you're adding 3 members to the Foot Clan in
triplets.
I'm pretty sure that the Fantasy Footballers podcast is doula approved.
What is doula?
The doula, the
is that like
who coaches them through labor?
There you go.
Thanks, men. Making us look good.
Well, congratulations to Isabel and her husband for their 3 amazing new babies.
It's also a running back on the Detroit Lions.
Isabel Green is?
Doula.
Abdullah.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike. Very helpful.
News and notes from around the league.
That's what you get.
Breaking news. The Arizona Cardinals have signed GM Steve Kine to an extension through 2022.
All right. Well, does that mean he's already got like the handshake deal with Kirk Cousins? They're so impressed.
Stevie.
See, that you need to lock up. This is what you do in the offseason. If you're an owner that wants to go get him, you lock your GM up so he doesn't feel like he can make any mistakes. So he's wild and fancy-free. So no matter what he does out there, he's not going to be at risk to losing his job. We're also Arizona Cardinal fans, so we're really hopeful. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins shortly, but somebody else got paid. Ooh. Jimmy Handsome.
Jimmy GQ was paid handsomely. 5-year, $137.5 million.
What, like 72 guaranteed?
Yes.
Off the top of my head, I
over
cannot
70
recall.
million guaranteed. Great contract. He has
Scrooge McDuck in it.
I believe 8 games in his career, and is now the highest paid NFL player.
How many of those
time.
games has he lost, Jason? What's his winning percentage career?
100%.
Yeah. That's
great.
a bargain if you're going to win every game. It's genius.
Yeah, I'd pay a lot more than that if I knew I was going to win every game.
100% of games. Deontay Foreman had all of his charges dismissed from his July arrest. This is good news for Deontay Foreman and the Texans. And the Colts have chosen to hire a coach, and the coach has chosen to sign a contract, and the contract is for 5 years. Frank Reich, offensive coordinator from the Eagles, is now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
I think it's fine.
I think it's a good.
I think it's fine.
A good signing. I really liked everything that I saw out of it. I do worry a little bit about the Eagles. I know they're intact.
They lost their quarterback coach as well.
Yes, they lost their offensive coordinator and their quarterback coach. They're going to have a replacement after a successful year. Very reminiscent of what happened with the Atlanta Falcons, after their Super Bowl run. So coming into next season with Carson Wentz recovering from the ACL, I do want to remember to temper my expectations on this great, powerful offense. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team or calling for their demise. But I worry that change at the top always has an effect.
I wish that I could just argue vehemently against that point, but you have to consider so many things: the injury, the turnover, the Super Bowl situation where like teams generally coming off a Super Bowl, you got to the Super Bowl for a reason. You had a very special year, and then you mix in those insane touchdown efficiency numbers of Carson Wentz. I'm super excited for the future of Carson Wentz, but you're going to have ebbs and flows in every career, and it might not be another great ascension. There's a lot stacked against him from a fantasy perspective, so I have to consider that despite my ownership of him in dynasty leagues.
There you go.
All right. Any other news you guys want to touch on before we get into the free agency? So much to talk about there. Mike?
I'm ready.
Jason?
I'm never ready, but let's go.
Brooks, how are you doing?
Oh, Brooks.
Let's do it.
At the right volume level.
Free Agent Frenzy.
All right. Wow, that cut off quick, Mike.
Hey, when you're in the hall with the Mountain King, you got to fade fast.
That's smart. All right. Well, we want to we're going to have multiple episodes touching on free agency, especially as the league year begins, which is March 14th. We'll start to see the signings take place. But we want to give you a lay of the land, let you know what's going on, who's available, what teams have cap room, what you can expect from this upcoming offseason. And look, this is going to work two directions. There's the direction of new players on new teams, and then there's the direction of removing a piece from the team they were on, and how that can open up a roster spot. That can open up a depth chart battle. That can change the equation for different teams, and we'll get into that on today's show. So let's talk first about teams that have a lot of money to spend. Mike, who are some of the teams that are going to be active in free agency from your estimation?
This may shock you, but the Cleveland Browns have a lot of money that they can spend.
No way.
So we will see. There's the connection of Kirk Cousins to Cleveland is being made frequently because of the amount of money that the Browns can throw at him, front load it. Similarly, with Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy G's got $43 million front loaded.
Yeah, so it makes it just an even more enticing contract. San Francisco has a very large cap. The Jets, the Colts, and Tampa Bay. Those are the top 5 teams in terms of most space with their salary cap. We know salary cap, it can be massaged here and there. They can make things fit. The teams do this.
Yeah, players will get cut.
When you have the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, currently they're in the hole.
Right.
So,
but you restructure a player,
Yeah.
you sign him to a long-term deal, actually frees up cap space because you turn money into different type, into signing bonuses, things like that. But, yeah, Philly has very little money. Miami, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, those are the teams, near the bottom of currently projected cap space.
One of the reasons why Kansas City found it to be the right time to move on from Alex Smith as well.
It's the cap space.
Yeah, you get the opportunity to kind of get that bargain year with Pat Mahomes. So we're going to go position by position. I want to let people know the difference between an unrestricted free agent and a restricted free agent. We'll be touching on both in terms of the lists that we give you. The majority of the ones we're talking about are unrestricted free agents. These are free agents that will have the ability to negotiate with any team and sign a contract with any team. An example of that is likely going to be Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
These players can be franchised by the teams if they're still eligible for a franchise tag, but we're going to talk about unrestricted free agents, and then restricted free agents are players that essentially the team that they were on has a level of rights over that player, right? And so what happens is let's give an example. Okay, what's a restricted free agent that we want to make an example?
So A.J. McCarron.
There you go.
Restricted free agent backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. What do they tender him an offer of and explain the offer.
So essentially when you have a restricted free agent on your team, you have the power as that team to extend what they call to tender them, to make them an offer for a 1-year deal. And you can make an offer at 3 levels. You can make a first-round tender, which this year is going to be just over $4 million. You can make a second-round tender, which is a $2.9 million contract, or you can make an original round tender. And the reason we're associating with the draft round is because if another team comes along and wants to make an offer on that player, if you have tendered them, you get compensation at that level. So if the Bengals decide they want to tender A.J. McCarron at a first-round value and offer him $4.1 million, a team that comes along and wants to sign him can then make an offer, and if they get him, they have to pay a first-round draft pick to the Bengals. Now, if a team comes along and makes an offer, the Bengals have a right to match that offer. And so that is the kind of limitations placed on a restricted free agent. Teams, the team that owns their rights now can decide, hey, we want to let him go because we'd rather have the compensation. We'd rather have the draft pick. Or they can match the deal, and that player comes back and plays for that team. Does that summarize it?
Yeah, and this happens. Last year, the Patriots smuggled Mike Gillislee from the Buffalo Bills because they thought they could get away with just giving him an original round tender. Mike Gillislee was a fifth-round draft pick, and the Patriots said, that's worth it. We'll give you our fifth, and we'll sign him to an offer sheet. I believe C.J. Anderson also they made the mistake of giving him too low of a tender, and Miami gave him a deal right away, to which the Denver Broncos then decided to match and bring C.J. Anderson back. So it's very
those
interesting
terms
to watch.
Are synonymous, by the way. The tender versus offer sheet, those are the same. We're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, so it's just very interesting to watch how teams negotiate with the salary cap and what value do they place on a player. Do they think they can sneak them through?
Yeah, you're playing a game. You're basically playing a game, and sometimes you get burnt. You got to go pay the guy, or you got to let him go. Let's start at the quarterback position. I want to talk about the prominent free agent quarterbacks that will be available this year. We've talked a lot about Kirk Cousins. We saw the Alex Smith trade agreed to in principle and what that means with Kirk Cousins being an unrestricted free agent. Now, there were a couple of other unrestricted free agents of prominence that we aren't really going to talk a lot about. One was Jimmy G, who just was extended by the 49ers. The other one's Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees is technically an unrestricted free agent. But
not really.
He's not really, because he's basically said he's not going to play anywhere else.
No,
so
he is, I believe, verbatim said, I will be a Saint.
Yeah, so we're not going to really discuss hypotheticals for him because there aren't any that make any sense. But look,
this is the year of the quarterback.
It is.
When I look at the free agency landscape as a whole, I'm really disappointed. Like, I was looking, digging deep through the wide receivers.
You're really?
I am super disappointed. I think it's a weak weak free agent class this year. However, at quarterback, it's a truly historic year. I mean, there's never been a time where a starting caliber, franchise caliber quarterback is just on the market. And right now, not only do you have Kirk Cousins, but you also have the three-pack of Minnesota Vikings that are every single one of them could be a starting quarterback for, at least half of the leagues out there with Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, and Sam Bradford. So
I wonder if they wish they could just melt them down into one super quarterback.
There is the whispers in the bushes that the Vikings are trying to get Teddy Bridgewater's contract to toll because of the entire missed year, which would essentially then take the last year of his deal and move it to next year. So he would still technically be under his rookie contract. I haven't heard an update on what's happening with that situation, though.
Kirk Cousins is 29, Teddy Bridgewater is 25, Case Keenum and Sam Bradford are both 30 years old, and you're going to have a situation there where the Vikings have to decide what they want for the future. They were a great team this past year, the majority of which was under Case Keenum. Kirk Cousins is out there. He's been rumored as a possible future Minnesota Viking as well. I'm curious what they want to spend. Right now, from a cap perspective, they have a lot available.
Right now, but if Minnesota picks up Kirk Cousins, they're making the decision that a lot of their key pieces on defense, they're not going to be able to re-sign them when their contracts expire. So it's taking your shot. You're going for it right now if you pick up Kirk Cousins.
Arizona, Cleveland, Denver, Minnesota, the Jets. Maybe Buffalo, maybe Jacksonville, maybe Cincinnati. Those are the teams that we're looking at saying, these are where these quarterbacks are going to go. Those teams are where you're going to see Case Keenum and Sam Bradford land. And then you have some of the more backup level guys that are also free agents that you should pay attention to. Josh McCown, Jake Cutler technically.
I think Cutler's done.
He's probably done, but he's 34. Blaine Gabbert, Matt Moore, Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's pretty much it. The only other case, we brought him up earlier, A.J. McCarron. He's kind of a sought-after, nearly traded to the Browns, backup quarterback for the Bengals, somebody that I think teams look at much like they did Matt Schaub many, many years ago, where he was brought over from Atlanta to become the starting quarterback for the Texans. People look at McCarron and say, hey, he could be a starter in this league. He could be something like—
Do you look at him that way?
Case Keenum. Do I look at him?
I do not.
I'd want to bring him in and have him compete. I wouldn't want to bring him in and hand him a job. Who did the Seahawks sign the same year that Russell Wilson broke out as a fourth-round pick?
Oh, Green Bay, Matt Flynn.
Yes.
So that's how I would view this situation.
Mike Glennon of the Bears.
Yeah, I would want to bring McCarron in, and I would want him to compete with a draft pick. I wouldn't want to hand him the reins to my franchise in a long-term deal structure. He could be very good. If I were the Bengals, I'd be trying to tender him and see what you have with one more year of Andy Dalton, whether this team can make any moves and strides forward or not.
Now, the deal with A.J. McCarron, he's technically a restricted free agent, but he is currently in arbitration. He's fighting to say that he accrued a season because he was active for the final 3 weeks of 2014. So he is saying, I played.
He wants to go get a contract.
And the team is saying you did not. So I believe that's supposed to be ruled on by a couple days.
Yeah.
A couple days from now, the 15th. So that will be interesting if all of a sudden A.J. McCarron is now unrestricted.
Let's say you had to name the quarterbacks that you thought had the highest fantasy potential. Let's say you name the top 3 from that group: Bradford, Keenum, Bridgewater, Cousins. Tyrod Taylor, let's throw him in there because he's expected to be released from Buffalo. And then let's throw McCarron in there as well. Where would you put those guys? I know we don't know where they're going.
I'm gonna say that Keenum is probably top of the list.
You and Case Keenum.
I think Case Keenum is a very good quarterback.
Why isn't he your—
He would be truly. He should be my fantasy Valentine. He should.
Stop it.
I think he's a very good quarterback, and he's going to be able to choose a situation that is good for his career. I mean, he doesn't have to go and play for Jeff Fisher.
He gets Cousins scraps. That's what he gets.
I think he's the starting quarterback
leftovers
for Minnesota next year. I do.
Yeah, that means that Kirk Cousins has rebuked Minnesota's offer.
You would like Case Keenum then, from a fantasy perspective, more than Kirk Cousins? Because isn't that what you just said?
I guess Kirk Cousins to me is just like I bypass him in the sense that like he is clearly the number one. There's no doubt.
I thought you were trying to make it just a ridiculous argument.
No. I mean, Kirk Cousins will be the most fantasy relevant move. Does he go to Denver? Does he go to Minnesota?
He's going to make a lot of money. He's going to get a franchise handed to him.
Yeah, it's just after Kirk, who matters? One team's going to get Kirk, and then let's say you're the New York Jets. You've got cap space. There's a couple free agents available. You know, who would you go after? I think Teddy Bridgewater is actually a great pairing. They're a super young team. He's played in cold weather before. So I think Bridgewater would make sense for the Jets.
Yeah, you got to go Cousins, Keenum. I'm very interested to see if somebody give Sam Bradford another shot because when he's on the field, he's been tremendous.
Let's take this February 13th afternoon and just forget about the injuries for him for a day. Let's throw the injuries out.
Then he would be 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
He would be 2 behind Kirk Cousins, but it's hard to roll him out. I mean, there's a lot of love in this room.
So those are the quarterback names we're going to be watching this offseason.
And before we move on to the running back position, speaking of love, pristineauction.com. I love it. I live it. I'm there every single day on the interwebs because it is the best sports memorabilia site of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, and here are some of the deals that have been happening at pristineauction.com. A signed Adam Thielen Vikings jersey, $77. Not to be outdone, a Stephon Diggs, a Color Rush jersey, no less. $71.
Even their jerseys compete.
Well, they're hand in hand. Super Camario, signed Saints logo football, $81. This is the place to go. PristineAuction.com. Their signatures are always vetted, always authentic. I'm never concerned about that. And
we just got an email this morning with somebody who literally said their dreams came true with what they found on Pristine Auction.
Yeah, so check it out.
Because there's so many different items.
It's a daily auction. They have hundreds of new things every single day. The prices are unbelievable. Make a completely free account. Pristine Auction, Pristine auction.com.
We also want to take a second and thank World of Warships today. Look, if you're looking for a way to engage in a little more friendly competition, look, you're already on your phone. So try captaining some of the greatest warships of World War II in World of Warships, the free-to-play historical online combat game from War Gaming. You command a massive naval fleet. It is a perfect balance of that action and strategy, which sports fans love. I know I like that type of thing. Every match is unique. It's filled with endless hours of strategy, tactical gameplay, and pulse-pounding naval combat action. Download World of Warships for free today at commandwarships.com to begin your naval adventure, and make sure you enter the code. Now, all caps, everybody.
All caps.
If you want the perks, you got to put it in all caps. Footballers 18.
You scream it.
Footballers 18. And then when you download, you get a ton of bonus content, courtesy of the Fantasy Footballers, a free premium ship, the Aurora, and a pile of in-game currency to start your epic World War II naval adventure. Download World of Warships today at commandwarships.com to start playing right now. Let's talk about the running back position. Man,
we're talking rookies?
There are a lot of names.
I can't
now,
wait to talk rookies.
We just did the Remember episode of the show where we want you to look back, and one of the things we noted was how impactful the rookie running backs were on the NFL and in fantasy last season. You had a ton, right? Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook before he was hurt, and Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey.
They're going to impact these free agents.
Yeah, the thing is, none of those guys are free agents. We're talking about the free agent running backs right here, right now, including Le'Veon Bell, right? 26 years old, still unsigned. He says he's willing to take a franchise tag if it comes to that. He wants a long-term deal with Pittsburgh. Things are trending in the right direction.
Which means if he's willing to play under the franchise, he's not giving him the guff, the hoo-ha, he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Right.
It's
and so he's a lot like, we're not really considering Drew Brees. Unless things take a turn for the worse, Lev Bell is going to be back in Pittsburgh. But other free agents of note, and we'll get into the teams that are in great need at the running back position and who you guys personally like the most and will be watching for. But Dion Lewis, he's a free agent along with Rex Burkhead in New England.
He's probably the best free agent out there that has. I think Dion Lewis changes teams.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree, and we'll talk about why. Carlos Hyde, Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Crowell at 25 years old, a free agent. Frank Gore's a free agent. Darren Sproles, the heart ring himself. Alfred Morris, who showed he could still do it in Dallas.
He can do it in Dallas.
Well, anybody can do it in Dallas.
Yeah.
Huh? Even Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, you could.
He's a free agent. Charles Sims, Damian Williams, Orleans Darkwa, Terrence West, Alfred Blue, among others. Let's circle back. The Dion Lewis thing, the reason that I don't look at him the same way that maybe you do is because I do consider size, stature, and injury history in this equation. And so is a team going to be willing to both pay the money and hand a backfield to a player that has been so frequently hurt? I feel like he's going to share a backfield. I don't see any situation where he's not going to share a backfield. So
yeah,
does he impact a team greatly? Maybe. But does he impact my fantasy team greatly? I'm not certain where he's going to go and where he's going to have that impact.
Yeah, I mean, he is he's not a workhorse back. You're not going to have him signed to a team and just get the bulk of everything. But I think he, based on what he's done for New England and the trend of the NFL in succeeding with pass-catching running backs, I think there's going to be a team out there that says we need to get more involved with passing to the running back. Dion Lewis is a perfect candidate to do that. If you want more of a workhorse style, you got Carlos Hyde. They're both same age. He's both with a little bit of injury history, but he's built more for it, size-wise. But Carlos Hyde is not quite the pass catcher that Dion Lewis is. I think just
Still very good pass catcher.
Judging by the direction that the NFL's taking, I think a team is going to benefit from Deion Lewis.
I would rather, personally, if I'm an NFL franchise, I'd rather pay Jerick McKinnon less money at 25 years old than I'd have to pay Deion Lewis without the injury history to come in and make the pass-catching impact that I want.
Sure. I mean, if I'm a GM, I'm not paying up for a running back, period, unless it's early in a draft.
I'm going to be shocked if anyone gets paid. Just going through this list here.
I'm with you.
Le'Veon Bell, yes.
This is part of why I said this free agent class, me.
Yeah, it's hard to knock the free agent class, though, when it's just the way that the NFL is now. Because Deion Lewis, it was one of the best running backs last year. Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, 5 a carry, right?
Right. I don't know his yard off
I'm
the
pretty
top
sure
of my
Deion
head,
Lewis was right around 5 a carry.
Carlos Hyde, it was a down year statistically, but still got it done on a bad team. McKinnon broke out. There's a lot of good things going on here. It's just, why would you give a veteran running back millions of dollars when you can draft a running back in the 3rd round?
180 attempts for Deion Lewis. You're going to have to pay him a bunch of money. 5 a carry, 6 touchdowns. He's excited to test the free agent market.
And that's what I've heard as well.
And the Patriots have not talked extension with him. So I do expect Lewis to find a new home.
And a quick review of the Patriots situation. So, like Andy said, Deion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, both free agents. James White, he's still on that pretty lucrative extension. Mike Gillislee, who became the one we don't speak of for the New England Patriots.
Bench warmer.
Yes. He can be cut for 0 dead cap, which they can hold on to him. He's still pretty cheap. But at this point, why would you hold on to him if you're never going to use him, and you can bring back Rex Burkhead, or maybe we just have a completely new
Isaiah Crowell.
Is Darren Sproles on the New England Patriots next
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
So that backfield, I guess what you bring up is these guys might not be back, but that backfield might have a completely new look in it. And we saw this past year, if you get it right, you've got production at that position on
Judging
that team.
from my late season pickups in our Dynasty League, as I acquired both of the Patriots running backs
and
last
Rex
year.
Burkhead late last year.
Oh, yeah. We should just look to your team.
Who did you sign late this year?
He's technically a restricted free agent, but Corey Grant from the Jacksonville Jaguars, if he ends up on the Pats, then I am the oracle. I have become the crystal ball for Patriots running back.
Oh, my
That
goodness.
seems like legitimately seems like a player that the Pats would target too.
Yeah, get him cheap
and make them weep. Get them cheap, make them weep.
You know,
because they win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You make all the other teams cry because they lost value.
with Darren Sproles as a free
Get him
agent.
cheap and make
I
him
think
weep.
it's also worth noting, like you said, Andy, it's not just who does, when a player goes to a team, what's that fantasy implication of the new team, but the team that was left behind. And similar to the Patriots, I see the Eagles with their running back situation. LeGarrette Blount, he's 31 years old.
Free agent.
He's a free agent. Darren Sproles is older, free agent. And then you have Kenyon Barner is also a free agent. And you have Clement there. You have Ajayi there.
You still have Pumphrey under contract.
Wendell Smallwood exists. So it's one of those things
Wendell.
where
Sorry, Wendell.
that might open up a little bit of room for Ajayi to actually take over that role. And with the cap space mentioned earlier where Philly's in a bad spot cap-wise, although most of their important pieces are already locked and loaded under long-term deals.
For perspective, maybe teams you'll be watching, these are some franchises that we think, have openings at the running back position, potential landing spots for some of these free agents.
And you're going to say Baltimore is the first one. Just want to remind people, Alex Collins, who was sensational for them, he is an exclusive rights free agent, which we haven't talked about.
Basically means
but essentially it means that Baltimore controls the destiny of Alex Collins.
That's where the franchise, the team walks up to him and says, "Hey, you hear you're a free agent," and then they chuckle and walk away.
Yeah.
Because they're not really a free agent.
I mean,
it's basically
NFLPA. Come on,
just so you know why that happens is basically if Baltimore decided they don't want to pay Alex Collins, they can choose not to pay him, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. But if he wants to play, he has to agree to basically a $600,000 deal with him. All right, Baltimore, Cleveland, they're losing Isaiah Crowell. They do have Duke Johnson, but again, he's a complimentary back, a pass catcher. Detroit, they have to find a solution at the running back position.
It's not Abdullah.
No, they have got to find a running back. The Colts are losing Frank Gore, and Marlon Mack is not a full-time. Yes, potentially losing Frank Gore. And Frank Gore is 34. They're looking for a better long-term solution. Frank Reich and company there. New England, we talked about it. The Giants, who do they have in the backfield next year? Do they add a piece? Do they need a bigger bruising back to complement maybe a Wayne Gallman in New York? The Jets, Matt Forte, I think, says he wants to play. Isn't that true?
Yes, he has said he wants to play.
I want to play next. I want to play next year.
Bilal Powell is there as well, but both.
Who?
Bilal Powell. I apologize.
Yeah, that was offensive.
If the Jets want to move on from both of those guys, they can do it for very cheap.
Mike, Jason, what do we think happens in San Francisco? You've got all the excitement about Jimmy G, and then you have this backfield where Carlos Hyde has been in and out of the doghouse with Kyle Shanahan. You had, I thought, a really great season for Matt Breida in limited time. And then you have Joe Williams, and we talked about him more in the offseason last year before the injury. Do they draft another player and let Carlos Hyde go? Is that what you expect?
Yeah, I think they'll draft someone late, use Matt Breida, Joe Williams, whoever they draft, and let Carlos Hyde walk in free agency. I would be surprised. Because Carlos Hyde, he's 27. This is his last chance to go and get a deal.
He'll take the largest paycheck.
And as he should. He's a running back. He needs to take the most money he can get from whatever team will do that. And I don't think that's going to be San Francisco. There's just no need for them to pay up for that position, especially when you've got the core of a good team there. You could replace Carlos Hyde cheap. Maybe go out and spend at the wide receiver. Get a quality wide receiver. Pierre Garçon's a little old. Goodwin is fast. But, could they go out with their cap space and add a Jarvis Landry or something like that with Jimmy G? I think I would rather do that as a GM than pay Carlos Hyde.
Seattle is going to be looking for a solution at running back.
Seattle.
Thomas Rawls and Mike Davis are both restricted free agents. And so if they are not tendered or if they find another home, I can't expect Thomas Rawls to be tendered, to be honest.
And Eddie Lacy's an unrestricted free agent. Do they have anyone under contract?
They're the running back equivalent of the Vikings at quarterback position.
Yeah, there's a situation.
I think they're in the situation where they're happy they don't have anybody under contract there. You're going to spend a draft pick.
Okay, so they have Brosice is still under contract, as is Chris Carson.
Every time that Seattle's management considers Brosice a part of their depth chart, their eyes roll into the back of their head. Because they want – no disrespect to C.J. Brosice. He's a great player when he's on the field. But there are players that just seem destined for this type of situation. And when you're Seattle, you have to basically pretend you don't have them. That's how you have to approach it as a GM.
He's so good.
Also, for what it's worth, ESPN Titans reporter Cameron Wolfe predicts that Tennessee will release DeMarco Murray this offseason. That would put Murray into the free agent pool. He wants to continue playing. He's 29 years old.
Mike Wright from the Fantasy Footballers is reporting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will likely release Krampus.
Doug Martin.
Yes. So add him to the list as heard here.
Here on the show.
By me.
Reported. Krampus hater himself. He wasn't your Valentine?
No. Shockingly, he was very low on the list.
If Krampus is the opposite of Santa Claus, then what is the opposite of Valentine's Day?
Sad, lonely man.
Day?
In a basement.
Oh, okay. All right. That's where Doug Martin's headed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Goodness. Poor guy. Wide receivers. A lot of teams in the market for a wide receiver. Teams with openings include Arizona, somebody to complement Larry Fitzgerald.
Why is Arizona on every need except for running back?
Because we're a sad, lonely man in a basement.
When you lose your quarterback and have your only wide receiver of note is
I like how you
borderline retired.
I like how you said this right after announcing that their GM got a long extension.
Well, defense is legit.
The needs are there on offense. We got to find some solutions in Arizona. All right, Baltimore. Baltimore always seems to be in need of a wide receiver.
Yes, they do.
Buffalo always seems to be in need of a wide receiver.
They had two great ones.
Look, you have some possible good destinations. Chicago could use a 1 to go with Mitch Trubisky's progress. They've got Nagy there now and some promise. Indianapolis, if Andrew Luck can get back, I would like to catch the ball from Andrew Luck.
Yeah, Dante Moncrief is a complete unrestricted free agent, so he could leave.
He could come back on a prove-it deal, too. We'll see. Jacksonville.
Yeah,
they're going to have some guys leave in town. Marquise Lee, Allen Robinson could leave. I don't expect them both to leave, but
I expect Allen Robinson to be franchised, but you're right. I think Marquise Lee moves on.
Washington. They could use a weapon for Alex Smith that isn't Josh Doxson. Yeah. Only Josh Doxson.
Well, they're not going to bring back Terrell Pryor.
No.
If you can't see me, which you can't because you're listening to me, I'm shaking my head.
What team out there is going to go sign Terrell Pryor now at 29, coming off of that season, to be their solution at wide receiver?
Well, he won't be a solution, but if you can bring in
complimentary player,
if you could bring Terrell Pryor in for a veteran minimum, one-year deal,
got it.
Maybe he goes back.
All right. Those are some of the teams, and there's obviously a number of other ones. Green Bay could be in the market for another wide receiver at a bargain price. Kansas City, Carolina, Dallas. Here are the top available free agents at the wide receiver position. Why don't you guys tell me the best fit for these teams and where you think they'll end up? Sammy Watkins, Jarvis Landry, they're the headliners. Maybe throw Allen Robinson in there. Mike, you said you thought Allen Robinson's going back to Jacksonville at 24 years old.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is the headliner here for me, even coming off of the ACL injury. He's the guy who I would want out of these three.
Really?
Yeah.
100%.
I would rather have Jarvis Landry on my ball club than I would Allen Robinson.
I love Jarvis Landry. I think he's an excellent football player, but the best thing for Jarvis and for fantasy football is he goes back to Miami. I believe that's growing a weaker and weaker option by the day, but I don't.
So Allen Robinson,
I don't see a perfect fit for Jarvis Landry anywhere where he's going to get the targets and the receptions that we're used to.
Jason brought up the fact on our 10 Things to Remember show that a lot of these free agents, where they landed, it didn't work out. I mean, Terrell Pryor's a great example of that. Allen Robinson broke out a couple of years ago, struggled the following year with Blake Bortles to replicate that season, then is injured. You really like him more than a Sammy Watkins or a Jarvis Landry?
Yes. I think his ceiling is much higher.
Because he's more – why do you like him more than Watkins? Let's put it that way.
Well, Watkins is – speaking of injuries, Sammy Watkins frequents the medical tent. Allen Robinson is just he's just a better route runner, and we've seen it. And I think it also factors into my decision of Allen Robinson. We've seen a 1,400.
You've seen the ceiling.
We've seen 1,414 touchdowns, and that's with Blake Bortles. I mean, no disrespect, of course, ever. Got a snake, I will never disrespect the snake, but he put up 1,400 yards with Blake Bortles.
You actually kind of startled me with those numbers.
Allen Robinson.
I forgot how good they were.
Allen Robinson is a beast. A beast.
Yeah.
And if you can get Allen Robinson on the cheap, I've seen some people like, I can get Allen Robinson right now for the 107. And I'm like, yes, go do it. Get him.
Yeah, I think Allen Robinson is probably the best player here. Sammy Watkins right there with him, though, 24. Add in Jarvis Landry. Those are the three. That's a tier where it's like, okay, if you want to go after one of the best, top-end wide receivers to help your team, that's the three that you're looking at. Everybody else is a step down.
These lower tier guys are actually very interesting.
Oh, they'll help teams, and a lot of times you see the lower tier guys making a change that actually helps them more. Robert Woods last year changed teams and was able to ascend to the next level. The interesting spot for me with these big guys, the big guns, is actually Indianapolis. They have a ton of cap room. If they decide, hey, Dante Moncrief, maybe he was really not that great. Now, Moncrief's only 25, so he's another intriguing free agent, but without Andrew Luck, he showed he wasn't all that great. In fact, he was pretty terrible last year. But if you added Sammy Watkins, you know what I mean, and you have Sammy Watkins on one side, T.Y. Hilton on the other side, or Jarvis Landry if you want a guy, although I think T.Y. Hilton.
He plays the slot a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would love to see Sammy go to Indy and play with a great quarterback. But I think Jarvis Landry is the only guy of these three I expect to change teams.
All right, other notable free agents that could land around the NFL. Marquise Lee, 26 years old. Paul Richardson has a chance to go get a deal at 25.
Intriguing.
He had a pretty good season. Terrell Pryor, he'll be 29 when the season starts. He's 28 right now.
I got a guy that
Jordan
I know.
Matthews.
Yes.
I was just going to say, you talked about San Francisco trying to fill a void. Jordan Matthews going there to man the slot.
No, that's how you sign a void. You actually sign a void to a contract.
Your hatred for Jordan Matthews makes no sense to me. He is.
It's only based on his production.
I think he's well, you can't say based on his production. His first 2 years, he's one of the most productive wide receivers of all time. So he had back-to-back 1,000-yard
Hyperbolic
seasons.
much?
You're
Hyperbolic much?
You're way
No,
way
he had
over.
the 8 touchdowns.
Yes, he had
back-to-back
16
seasons.
touchdowns his first 2 years. 872, 997, 804.
Yeah, a little hyperbolic. This last
Yes.
year he stunk, but what was
Greatest
his quarterback
of
situation?
all time. GOAT.
How good was Robert Woods with, Tyrod Taylor?
But Jordan Matthews to Jimmy GQ in San Francisco
Are really
would
great
be
players
great.
traded away like that?
Or to Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. I think that would be another fit.
Maybe. I as much as I like Matthews, I don't think he can be a 1. And so if you put him in Chicago, he would have to be the de facto.
Well, not if is
alpha.
Cam Meredith coming back?
I hope so. He
Cam
is
Meredith
good.
is
He's an unrestricted free agent, right?
Is it unrestricted or restricted?
Oh, he is restricted.
Okay, so he's a restricted free agent. It
He'll
will be
probably
interesting.
He'll probably get tendered at an original deal, and
I mean, his
nobody's going to sign him because
his
he's coming off
knee
the
is
injury.
destroyed.
Yeah, so he'll be back. Other notable free agents: Kendall Wright, John Brown, Mike Wallace, Eric Decker.
Oh yeah,
Taylor Gabriel.
Taylor
I think
Gabriel.
he's a good piece.
he's
a-
fast.
If you're looking for speed, I mean, certain teams.
If you're looking for speed, why would you not get Dante Moncrief up in there? Just
because
saying.
he's going to be hurt.
Well, possibly. But just saying, if you're paying for speed, I would pay for Moncrief, who's much younger.
Adam Humphries, Willie Snead, Cameron
Oh.
Meredith, Tyrell Williams, Quincy Enunwa, and Eli Rogers are the 6 restricted free agents we have in this list. Tyrell Williams is interesting. His role, his situation there could change with Mike Williams' ascension. You obviously have Keenan Allen, who, by the way, credit to Keenan Allen, comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, because he's great.
Way to come back.
We're
hoping for a comeback player of the year for Jason next year.
I'm hoping for a Keenan Allen Don't Leave award because I don't want the comeback. Just
you don't want him to be eligible for a comeback player of the year again?
Yes. Don't leave
no
me
doubt
again,
about it.
Keenan. I need you.
Yeah. Well, okay, so of those destinations for wide receivers that we talked about, what do you look at as the highest upside potential? Like a place that can take a wide receiver 1 in and then translate that to great fantasy production. Because ultimately, look, you look at San Francisco. I know you're going to bring up, Jimmy G, that contract. I think Pierre Garçon comes back and is pretty darn productive.
But that's
next
what I'm
year.
saying. If you have Garcon and Goodwin on the outside, and then you put gigantic slot receiver Jordan Matthews, maybe for fantasy it's not that enticing, but I think for San Francisco's offense it would be a
Are
great
we
move.
ignoring Buffalo in the offseason discussion just because we don't know who their quarterback's going to be? I mean, is
Yeah.
Buffalo
Yes.
possibly a great destination? Kelvin Benjamin's there.
completely depends on their quarterback. I mean, if they end up landing, Kirk Cousins out of the blue, shockingly, which I mean, it's not going to happen. Then
not
all of a
gonna
sudden
happen.
you go, oh, the wide receiver options matter. But I don't see them landing someone great.
I'd love to see Moncrief land in Carolina and run
That'd be definitely interesting.
that Ted Ginn role that they've needed.
Buffalo getting into the playoffs. Buffalo has put themselves into a position where they might be forced to just hold on to Tyrod Taylor despite all signs that they would love to cut him because they can get out of that contract. It's not a zero dead cap situation, but they can get out of it. But then who plays quarterback for them? It's going to be one of those lower tier free agent guys that we talked about. Like, does Bradford end up in Buffalo?
Maybe.
Maybe is the Colt. The Colt's good for your joints, right? That's what that's what I hear.
that.
I've got my Terrell Pryor destination. I think I know where he's going. I figured it out.
Hit me.
He's going to play for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
That's what I predict.
oh man.
I predict Terrell Pryor to
Jason's
Dallas.
writing it down.
Dallas is a team that he's going to have to come to terms with and has come to terms with Dez Bryant not being the same player that he was. And I think they're going to do what they can to put Dak in a position to succeed. And for some reason, they're going to think that's Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Fair enough. And you guys realize we're officially on Jeff Janis watch.
Oh, my goodness.
Why are we on Jeff Janis watch?
Because he's an unrestricted free agent. He's finally free.
He's finally free.
Did you find his application on Monster? I mean, what?
Well, because he's a great metric
He's an
guy.
excellent graphic designer.
His metrics are great, but I mean, look, if you've had the entire first part of your career playing alongside Aaron Rodgers and you have you can't get on the field, you can't produce, Jeff Janis, go.
Danny Amendola is a free agent this year. Wonder if he'll be back in New England.
Well, Julian Edelman, his health is on track right now, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see if they spend there.
You expect Quincy Enunwa to be back in New York, coming off the injury, as a restricted free agent?
I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah,
they're with the roster that they have up in New York, they have to have Quincy.
All right, let's conclude this free agent preview with the tight end position. Some big names out there. Jimmy Graham, a free agent, not expected back in Seattle. Tyler Eifert, 27, not expected back in Cincinnati. My favorite free agent tight end is Trey Burton.
Yes.
Who's going to get paid and is nestled so comfortably on my dynasty bench.
Yeah, that's nice.
May have to make him my late show
honorary
Valentine. Oh, it's the late show Valentine. 26 years old, so athletic. Go land on a team that needs you.
Trey Boo-Boo.
Austin Seferian-Jenkins is also interesting. He's only 25 years old. I mean, he is a young guy who got his life together, and I
put him 99% to go back to New York, though. They need a pass catcher there, and I think he's going back to the Jets.
I agree. I don't think he'll hit the market.
But he is interesting because his age, somehow when players dominate the headlines the way they do and they change teams, you almost build in a couple extra years to their age sometimes. DeMarco Murray even is younger than we think he is because he's played for 3 teams now. And it'll be interesting to see where Trey Burton goes. He's going to get paid. In my opinion, he'll get the best long-term deal of any free agent tight end. That's what I would estimate. Somebody like Eifert and Graham. Eifert, you may see him sign a 1-year deal, a health deal.
I would make him prove it.
And then Jimmy Graham, I would expect about a 1-year deal there too. And I would expect Jimmy Graham to land with a contender. That's what I would believe. Later in his career, still productive in the red zone, I would think Jimmy Graham would land on a team like Green Bay or like New Orleans to go back home.
Oh, go to Green Bay, get everyone all flustered, and then I got to get Jimmy Graham. That tight end for Aaron
Hey,
Rodgers.
Martellus Bennett was absolutely
Yeah, we can go through the list.
dominant.
Please. Oh, that would be great because that's just a player that I don't have to draft.
that other people will draft too high.
Exactly.
Those
That's
are the
perfect.
best players.
Does Tyler Eifert...
Although, the same is true with New Orleans. He goes to the Saints, he's going to be overdrafted as well.
If he goes to the Saints, he's going to catch a lot of touchdowns.
Actually, I think I just realized he's going to be overdrafted.
Yeah.
It's a team agnostic here. It doesn't matter. His name is better than he is at this point.
Look, there's a new Jimmy G in town. We just need we need to retire the old one.
Wow, it's far more handsome.
Far more handsome.
Handsomeness pushes.
If Jimmy Garoppolo,
what if Tyler Eifert went to San Francisco, and you had Jimmy?
If I were going to sit on a bench, I'd rather
Eifert.
sit on the bench in those San Francisco breezes than I would the Cincinnati.
I think he's
cold.
just inferring.
I'm
that
just talking about the handsome connection.
If we get Jimmy GQ, you get Eric Decker over there.
Yeah.
I mean, it just San Francisco handsome.
San Francisco, our Valentine.
Your handsome quotient would just go through the roof.
Number 1 on Tinder. It's the San Francisco 49ers. Swipe. What is it, left? Right? I don't know. I've been married 11 years. I don't know which direction you swipe.
There's wiping. I don't even know.
Wipe right. Always wipe right.
That's not the direction I've heard that you should go.
Okay.
Front to back.
Yeah.
Front to back.
Yep. That's the one.
You don't swipe right?
No, you don't wipe
I don't wipe
right.
right. No.
Wipe right. You always wipe away from the stall next to you. Isn't that the?
Yes.
Okay. Where are we? All right,
Cameron Bray is a very good tight end who's a restricted free agent, so you could see a team try to make a move for him. They would probably have to give up a draft pick in conjunction.
Yeah, I'm starting to think, despite hearing to the contrary, I'm not sure Brate leaves this year.
It would be crazy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to not just give him a second-round tender. 2.9. You can't original round Cameron Brate because he's undrafted.
All this talk of Tinder around lunchtime, it's really starting to get to me. Thinking about that Raising Cane's.
Why does that have to do with lunchtime?
What?
Tenders. I'm getting some chicken tenders at Raising
Cane's.
Cane's.
Tenders.
I had an eye in there.
You were
thinking
swiping. Well, see, no, we're doing both. We're swiping with Tinder, and we're talking about all these first and second round tenders, and all I want to do is eat some tenders.
And then you'll be wiping.
Front to back, my friends.
Okay. Well, look, are we going to wipe away the memory of Antonio Gates, Ben Watson, these older tight ends that are free agents?
Ben Watson's 37 years old.
Ben Watson forever.
Antonio Gates,
Ben Watson played on those OG Patriot playoff teams.
No,
Ben Watson is the same age as Drew Bledsoe.
Ben Watson.
No,
that's
he's
not
not.
true.
He's not.
I was like, what?
I'm just Ben Watson.
Ben Watson is a heck of a guy.
Walk uphill both ways.
Yes.
To Ben Watson.
Let's just for the sake of, I'm just checking Drew Bledsoe's age. I just need to know.
While we're filling time,
he's
Niles
45.
Paul.
So
I do think Niles Paul is
he's
a
a
good
guy.
pass catching tight end if he can stay healthy and get out.
Agreed.
Get a deal somewhere. He's
those
still
are the biggest.
28.
Those are the biggest names from a pass catching perspective. Virgil Green's a free agent, but they're going to keep him in and block. Use them to block. Yeah, I mean, is there
That's
anybody
all
else to talk about?
Fantasy relevant wise,
I
think that's
the only thing I would say is you can take a look at Seattle's tight end situation, and it's similar to the running back because they're going to lose Jimmy Graham.
They're going to have
and Luke Wilson is a free agent as well.
Well, Russell can play all those positions.
Yeah, he takes care of everything.
He's also the Yankees' starting second baseman this year. What do you think? What tender should we put out there for Brooks? Is he a second round tender? Maybe I'm
definitely not going.
Maybe original round.
No, I'm not going original round.
Yeah, well,
we don't want him to get scooped up.
We're
not
being cheap here. We'll go second round.
All right. You happy with that, Brooks?
Thanks, guys.
That's $1.9 million next year.
Ooh, that's a good.
Wait, what?
I accept.
Head to jointhefoot.com to support the podcast.
We need support now. Brooks is costing
Can I
us.
tender myself?
Unfortunately,
used our.
I'd swipe left.
I've got this on tape now. So.
Uh-oh.
Great. We just committed $1.9 million to Brooks next year. So, like I said,
This is the last episode of the fantasy
to support the podcast. All of a sudden, you're going to see these trophies and various items disappear as we sell them.
Mm-hmm. Melt them down
to pay for Brooks.
Metal.
We're not going to have much left. All right, that is it for today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in, supporting the show.
Weird ending.
I think, nobody's. We got Brooks for next year.
All right.
We got him. And check out draft.com/ballers. Play some best ball with us. We've been drafting all offseason so far, so a lot of fun. Goodbye.
See you Thursday. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.